Many students ask me, where does creativity start in the oil painting? It starts and runs all the way through the project. There is no substitute for creative thinking. There is no substitute for creative thinking. Right from the beginning, when you're choosing your canvas, most artists, including myself, choose a rectangle canvas like this one. And when they do their composition, they work this vertical or horizontal, and they run from that point. I'm going to challenge you right from the beginning, and I'm going to ask you now, when you get ready to do this painting or one similar to it, that you change the look, the size of the canvas, the shape of the canvas. Larger canvas, smaller canvas, different shapes. That will force you to be creative in your thinking process. This one is a 1224, 12 inches by 24. You can hold it this way, for instance, and do a magnificent tree study, perhaps with a lake if you were doing a landscape, or you could do a magnificent seascape with lots of sky and magnificently beautiful. Just the turn of the canvas will give your mind, especially a fertile mind, as you do have if you are watching this, because you are an artist. Or you can hold it, of course, this way and do a progressive landscape. And that alone will help you to become creative. Now, that's, as you can see, is a relatively small size canvas. And I'm going to challenge you. You can do studies and so on before you move on to the canvas with different size paper. But I'm going to challenge you this time, and I'd like to have you purchase a canvas about this size. This is 24 by 48. And why? Why? Dr. Sullo, why? Why do we need to have such a big canvas? Because it'll stretch your mind. It'll stretch your mind. And we can, of course, use it this direction, or we can use it this direction, horizontal or vertical. But we're going to use it this way for this particular project because it's going to force you to create a panorama. Now, does that mean I have to go out with my panoramic camera and take a picture and another picture and another picture? No, no, that's not what it's for. It's that you force your mind to see all the things that happen in your magnificent vision, in your vision. And what will tie them together is the horizon that we choose. Are we going to be up on a hill looking down on this panorama? Are we going to be sitting in the grass looking kind of up at the panorama? Or are we going to be standing there leaning against a tree and have one magnificent eye level all the way across the painting? Now, for this project, I said we're going to do a panorama. And the panorama is not going to be where we go outside somewhere, a plein air, and see an oceanscape and say, well, there's some boats out here and there's some houses over there. It can be done that way. But at this point, I want you more to use your memory and your imagination. So I'm going to, for this example, for you all who are watching Exploration of the Fine Arts and have been following us over the years, I'm going to use 3 of the paintings that we did on camera, but the memory of those paintings, not the paintings themselves. If you remember, we did a New England finger waves shoreline, and this was the painting that we finally completed. And as you can see, the waves are very shallow, and it's very rocky, New England, rocky beaches. And so we're going to add that somewhere on that large canvas. And also, we visited in Connecticut Devil's Hop Yard, which has a magnificently pretty separated waterfall. And this was the painting we did for that, mostly with palette knife, and it was a fun painting. So we're going to not copy this. We're going to remember Devil's Hop Yard. Remember standing here having the water blow on us as it cascaded over the rock formation, and there were children playing in the water, in this pool of water, and there were quite a few bees and bugs flying around up by the more fertile areas. And so we're going to use that memory as number 2 in this project. And this, once again, a very nice memory of a place in Paris that runs along the Seine River. And if you walk down this path, of course, the Tuileries Gallery is on this side, and there is the church off in Paris, but it has this magnificent walkway. The path along the river was very tranquil and magnificent, and a wonderful memory of Paris. And we're going to include that into a painting of Devil's Hop Yard, which is in Connecticut and the coast of Maine. There are no limits to your imagination. If you remember the movie Miracle on 34th Street, when Santa Claus was talking to the little girl, she wanted to know, how could I do all these different things? Because he had explained to her that in her mind, she can go to drive a locomotive and so on, sail a yacht, all these things. And she couldn't understand how. How can I do these things? And he said to her, it's a very special place, and it's called, you've heard of the English nation and the French nation. Well, this is the imagination. Wonderful thought. I love that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take Paris, we're going to take Maine, and we're going to take Connecticut and make one panoramic, wonderful painting, very creative, and you're going to love it. You can use anything you want as long as it comes from your mind. Please don't copy. Just remember, if you had gone on vacation to Jamaica or one of the islands, or if you had gone to the Orient or anything like that, remember what it was like, what it felt like, the things that when you came back, you were so anxious to tell everybody about. That's creativity, and that's sharing your wonderful moments in life, and that's what painting is all about. So let's get started. Ordinarily, on a project, especially one this size, I would do many sketches in charcoal pencil and so on, so that I understand where it is I'm going. I just don't want to take a big canvas like that and just take a shot. Even though it's coming from my mind, I want to organize it first, organize my thoughts. I've bypassed now for today, I bypassed doing pencil drawings, but what I would do is to take a small canvas, same, more or less, same size proportions, and think it through. And today I'm going to sketch it with charcoal pencil. The next step then would be to do a color study on his, but I'm going to skip that because I'm going to do the charcoal pencil study And then we're going to move directly to the large canvas because we just don't have that much time. Now, and I do have finger waves, so they're relatively low waves. So I'm going to choose for my horizon. Now, horizon always, always, always goes straight out from your eyes, no matter where you are, where you're sitting. If you're standing on a hill, if you're sitting in a ditch, it's always straight out from your eyes, and that determines the composition. So for this, because I'm going to have some low waves, finger waves, from my main painting, I'm going to keep the horizon relatively low. So as you can see, this is a very small canvas, and I'm going to come down, that's half, I'm going to come down about 25% down here, and this then is going to be, and you don't have to go too crazy with this, especially if you've already sketched it 3 or 4 times. But that's going to be my horizon. Now, the next thing I determined was I want to put some finger waves in this painting. And so I'm going to create 1-point perspective. So I'll put a 1 point here. That's going to be my 1 point there. And I'm going to draw out from there to create the line of the waves. That will give me an idea. Here's a separation. If we go up on the shore, I'm not sure yet where I'm going with this, but there it is. And where we painted those finger waves, there was an outcropping of land, and it ran across like this, and it went out and out to sea like this. Then there are smaller islands. And there are smaller islands, and so that's where I'm going. And this will be the part of my picture that will hold the finger waves. Now also, I have a waterfall. Now, as you are aware, water always seeks its own level and travels downhill. So to add into this, the waterfalls that we like, that we painted over at Devil's Hop Yard, I'm going to come up high and start to sketch in. And I'll let the water line be here. And I'm going to sketch in some shale, rocks, and here. And this will be here, where my waterfall will come down, empty into a pool over here, like this. And the land, basically, in this picture is off. And you see that quite a bit in New England. Now, we did have that painting of Paris that ran along, that was the river, but we can have it run right across the ocean. And I'm going to bring this level up just a little bit. I'm going to bring this level up a little bit and run a little bit of a ledge like this, and let the ocean break onto that, and let this be that walkway, and we'll put people on it. We'll put little people walking along the shore like this, and maybe husband and wife, and maybe a child, and they have dog. I don't know. There it is. Okay, that's good enough for my composition. This doesn't exist anywhere in the world. It exists only in my nation, my imagination. Now the next step is to take my little sketch and block in the areas with some color. You'll see that once we start working with the water-based paint, most of our charcoal drawing will disappear. So rather than trying to remember this and do it all over again, I'm going to take this now and redraw it on my big canvas with the same charcoal pencil without going too crazy, just to get the ideas of where they are. So I'm going to start on, like I said, I was 1/3 up the page for the horizon. So once again, I'm going to go 1/3 up the page if that's half the canvas. So 1/3 is about here and there. And I'm going to draw my horizon. And I'm not going to go too nuts with this. I don't need to use a T-square or anything else like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I put in my horizon, and now I'm going to put in the shale stone where the waterfall will be. So once again, I got 1, 2, 3 areas where I'll have 2 areas of waterfall. I'm going to come way up here and let it run down, down, down. And then there will be some kind of a ponding here. And I'll put a second cliff like this. And then a third quite a bit lower, and let this run down. And again, there's a place for the water from the waterfalls are empty. So we go from clear water into salt water, and then of course it becomes brackish, which is very important for the environment, brackish water. Now, I want the waves. For the finger waves, I'm going to locate 1 point perspective. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to work my perspective for the finger waves. And maybe one more. There. Now, we also have a cliff. Remember in Paris, where they were walking along the sand? And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to create a cliff walk. Like this. Cross contour, hatching for the hill, and then the street level will be up here. And then we'll have some other things happening later on here. But we also, as we said, that in New England there happened to be, what I remember, is land that stretched its hand out to the ocean. And then there was a small island. We'll make 2 small islands. So this is our ocean water, and we'll have some clear water coming down off the hills. And I'm thinking right now that I'm going to add an area way up here where the water could run from the top of this down to the cliffs, and let the waterfalls come down here and down here and mix to create the brackish water. And then, of course, we had some other little figures. Whether or not we put those in, I don't know. But there's the drawing that we need that was so important. Now, I have a charcoal drawing on my large canvas. If we paint over this with watercolor, even to make areas, we'll lose our drawing. So what I'm going to do I got a small round, relatively small round brush. I'm going to take some ochre paint. Now this is oil paint, not water base. I'm going to take the oil based paint and I'm going to trace over my lines. Now I use ochre because it'll be very easy. Ochre is very chameleon, so it'll be very easy for me to paint color over it when we get to working with the oil paints. However, right now I just want to maintain my drawing. So I'm going to use some media, and this is liquid. And I just have a basic paper plate here. And I'm going to quickly go over my line work, my drawing, so that I maintain it. And once again, I don't have to go too nuts with this. All I got to do is make sure it stays. Now, what's going to happen? How come it won't disappear when I tone this canvas? Because by the time I tone it, it'll be a day or two from now. The oil paint will be dry. As long as they're nice and dry, they will stay. And here's our shale cliff. Here's another, the smaller one. And here's the basin that the waterfalls will flow into. And my horizon, where I need it, of course, is right here. And once again, I'm not going to go too bonkers. I just want to maintain my drawing so that I don't have to do it again. So I'll put in my horizon and then our walkway where we'll have people walking along the edge of the ocean and having just in general a nice day. Here's the cliff walk, here's the cliff for the cliff walk, and here it is, and here, and here. That's all cross contour hatching, and of course the water will maybe reach that far. I don't know yet. I haven't thought that much through. Here's the line work, the perspective line work for my finger waves. And as you can see, it goes just this fast. You don't have to worry about any of this. Just remember where your 1 point perspective is and work with it. Here and here. All right. And I have another perspective line for my finger wave here. And another here. And one more here. Right at the 1 point perspective mark. Now, I haven't decided yet whether that's going to be sand and that the end of the ocean, the end of the finger waves, is here. I'm not sure yet. We'll get there. That's creativity. As I look at it, I'm thinking that if I bring this as the last ocean wave, then I'll have all of this. This can be a line of seashells and things that washed up on the beach. And I could put some people walking along the beach and I'll have some very nice reflections. That's just something in my mind. I haven't decided on it yet. Here then is my mark for the grassy land that'll reach out into the ocean. Just let it reach its hand out and maybe a small island out there and here And I want a little more here so I can see it. But that's all she wrote. Now we're going to tone the canvas. Now, if you've worked with me before, and I'm sure you might have, we always tone the canvas. Don't paint on white canvas, hardly ever. There are some reasons too, but for the most part, no reason to paint on white canvas. That's part of the creativity of your picture from the very beginning. You have the creativity comes into play. It came into play by choosing a different size, different shape canvas, a different size. Now also, what is this? Where are we? What's the day like? Now, where are we? I don't know. Are we in Maine? Are we in Connecticut? Are we in France? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's just imagine this day is happening and decide. You can decide from your mood, your personal mood. How are you today? How do you feel today? Do you feel like a rainy day? Do you feel sunny and happy and so on? Do you feel like um, a mysterious day? So let's work from there. Let's say that it's also is it morning or evening or the middle of the day or the night? All of those things would have a lot of influence on what your toning in your canvas looks like. I'm going to tone this in such a way that it can be either early morning or late in the day and evening. So I'm going to tone my sky first, but I want to start here with this. I'm going to use, what is this? Mars Black. I'm going to use some Mars Black, and I'll show you just how simple the toning of the canvas is. I'm going to use the Mars, and I'm going to just pop on. That's quite a lot there. I'm going to use some of this along the top part of my sky. And then I'm going to use just straight white. This is titanium white. And I'm going to put the titanium down along here. Okay. Along the horizon. And I'm just going to spread this basically. I have just some clean water and a big soft brush. And so I'm going to spread this color, this titanium white, all along my horizon. And I'm not going crazy with this, but I'm going to avoid losing, if I can, avoid losing the shapes that I drew in. There's my white area. Now I'm going to go into the darker, the black, and spread this out the same way. Here's my top of my shale. Wet the brush a little bit and continue. So I got a very, very dark sky at the top, and that could be morning breaking. It could be evening coming, dark as that is. And again, this is not the final color of composition. This is only a base for my oil paint. I'm going to wipe off. I got way too much paint. And I'm going to let this spread here. And as you can see, even this, I'll go right down here, all over the cliffs and down, right down into the painting, all the way down to the horizon. And I want to grade. I want to grade from dark to light. So I'm using a soft brush, and in all truth, I I very seldom use brushes. Most of the time, my technique is a Venetian technique, and most of the time, Titian and the Italian, Northern Italian artists did not use brushes too often. They used their fingers. And so this is the kind of thing that if I was in Venezia right now in Venice working along the Brenza Canal, I would be working with my fingers like this. Now, I'm not advertising that you stick your hands into the paint, but you will see me do it over and over again. And if you decide that you're going to go in that direction, please check with your physician whether or not there's anything in acrylic paint or oil-based paint or anything that you might be allergic to. Don't just do it because you see me do it. Do it because you took your time there. Because you took your time to really explore what will be, in the end, your technique. This happens to be the technique of Titian and the Venetian painters during the Renaissance. Okay, so there's my sky, the tone for my sky. Now I want to take these cliffs and I'm going to use, what is this? Burnt umber. I'm going to use some burnt umber and I'm going to tone these cliffs. All right, so all I did was took the paint, this is acrylic paint, and applied it to the canvas. Clean my brush out. Clean my brush out in the water. And I'm just going to move that paint around so it will act as a base. And so I'm here, way up here. And I'm going to let that happen a little lighter. And then this is the furthest point from our vision. And so I'll let that be here and here. And now I'm going to tone this. And as you can see, it's maintaining a little more paint. And so it's going to give me a darker surface. And that darker surface, because of aerial perspective, this will look as though it's in front of this cliff. So now I'm going to put this in, and it looks like I'm going to have to add a little more pink to bring this one closer. So it's in front of this other one. But this, all I'm looking for now is blocking, just blocking in. But I am going to add a little more paint into that. I want that darker. I don't want to start from behind. You have to catch up here. All right. That's what I want. Okay, so now this cliff, in and of itself, the darkness will pull it closer to us. This one will be the next. And you can see in the background that that's even further. So that's closest and so on. And that's way up there. That's way behind. The rain is hitting that and flowing down a lot of space and coming down to here. All right, now I have my ocean right there. And I'm going to tone it with light blue. Okay. I'm going to tone the ocean with some light blue. And here it is. And I'm going to try the best I can to follow the perspective when I brush this out. So there's that unusual looking. It says purple blue. Okay, I believe you. So now I'm just going to pull this. All I'm trying to do is to fill. Here it is. I want to fill the canvas itself with paint. Here. And this will go out to sea. I'm going to leave here and then here. And that's all I really need for blocking. And I'm going to look and see if this works in a minute. Let me get a little bit darker. Get a little darker between these waves. Come on. Yeah. I want to maintain the flow of the waves. And another one here. And get to darkness here where the water gets deeper. All right. And then I'm going to use white. Where's the white? And I'm going to use some titanium here. Because if this is where the waterfalls are, you remember from the painting, there's lots of fog going on. The water's falling and just flying all over the place. So let's just pop in some color. And then we'll go to the other side, to this side, and we'll use a dirty brush. We'll use a dirty brush and we'll put in on this side a gray. That's the surface that they will be working on. And we'll add just a little more white over here. We'll leave that to be wet sand. And we'll put a little white in here. And we'll let this be the cliff. Just a dirty brush cliff. And this. That. And we'll just shape this a little bit. I don't want to go too crazy because I'm not really painting yet. All I'm doing is giving tones. Okay. Oh, I have one more that I want to do, and that's I want to put some lighter greens up there as though they were trees and so on a little further away. And I have some Hooker's green, and I'm just going to put some on to make there, and then we had a little island out here, so I'll pop it on. As you can see, as we painted, the drawing just completely gets obliterated. So I'm going to just tone this in. This will be trees and lots of undergrowth and all kinds of nonsense going on right along the edge of the water and reaching out into the ocean like this. And I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about brush strokes or anything right now. I'm just toning the canvas. And you can see how fast and easy it goes. I can put a little one out there too. nevertheless, there's our tone. And I'm looking at it, and when it dries, I will examine it again and decide whether that works. And if it does, I'll transfer that. And I do like the sky. I can see some beautiful purples going on in there. The sun will come up nice and easy. I think these are not quite deep enough in value so that if the sun is behind and it's either early morning or the sun going down, these would be more in silhouette. This one back here would be lighter because it's further away. There's quite a few things that can happen, but again, this is your creativity. Let your mind run. And this is our base.
Now, from the drawings that we did first, I've taken the drawing and redrew it onto my large canvas. This is 24 inches by 48 inches, so it's going to be very large painting. Now, I put it in charcoal, but the charcoal, of course, once we try to paint over it, will smear and get lost. So over the line work, and you can still see the charcoal over the line work, I used ochre and a small brush, and I went over it completely so it will be there for me as I move along. And right now it's completely dried. It's been several days. It's completely dry. And then I'm going to move now into my underpainting, which again, as I said, will be in gray. And we're going to use, of course, black and white. This is titanium white. This is titanium white. And then we're going to use cerulean blue because we're going to want warm gray and cool gray. And we'll use the cerulean blue to make some cool gray. And this is cadmium red. And we'll mix that to the gray to make a warm gray. Brushes. I have a number 11 round. I have a number 6. A number 6 round. So I have an 11 round and a 6 round. And then I have also a 1-inch flat and a 1/2-inch flat and a 1/4-inch flat. And that's all I'm going to need for this part of the project. And here they are. We've completed a value study, and the aerial perspective in the sky works very well for me. So I'm going to use that. And of course, I'm doing a gray study here, a gray underpainting. And so I'm going to use the values that you see in the sky on my large painting. And later, I can decide whether or not it's red sky in the morning, say I'll take morning, or is a nighttime sky. But I'll have the underpainting with the values in it, and I'll paint the color in velatura over that. I'm starting with my round. This is a large round, a number 11, and I'm going to place in some black. And I'm just going to pull it up here. And also what I'm going to do is take all of this sky and divide it more or less into thirds. So 1 and 2. So I got 1, 2, 3. And I'm adding some media, some liquid. This will be the darkest, so I'm going to put quite a bit of paint up here. And I'm going to continue with this all the way across so I can, in the end, have a very nice grade from dark down to light. Canvas will speak to you as you go along because this is created. This doesn't exist anywhere. in pieces, yes, but not as one composition. So as I start to paint this picture, this composition, the painting in itself, as I go along, will speak to me. So I'm going to be the darkest there. I'm going to add just a little bit of black to the bottom third, not a lot. Go around the mountains that will be there. And I'm going to add into the center less. Now, we'll probably have to adjust this once we get to blending it, but at the moment, it works nice and quick. My brush in and of itself is too dirty with black, so I'm going to wipe it out. And I will leave some black in there. I'm not concerned about that. But I'm going to go back now into the white, add some media, go into the white, and add this white into the bottom third, which in the end represents the lightest part of my sky. I'm going to add just a little bit of white, not too much, to the top third. Just a few dabs of white in here. And now I'm going to go to my 1-inch large flat. I'm going to grab some liquid on it. And I'm going to blend. I'm going to blend the black up on top. And of course, I'm blending it now because I'm going to want to make that value from dark to light. So I'm starting with the black and a good amount of liquid in there because I do want it to spread nicely around all the way down to 1/3. And of course, this is going to be part of the painting that was from Connecticut, the Devil's Hop Yard, with the waterfalls coming down into the ocean. And my students will say to me at this point, Dr. Sullo, you always say, don't paint on a white canvas. And they would be absolutely right. I do preach that constantly. However, we are doing this in a European style, and so we're doing an underpainting. The underpainting, in and of itself, will act as a tone to the white canvas. So I'm going to move down into the next third, and even though my paint brush is filled with black, I'm going to come down here, and right away you can see, let's see, get it a little higher for you. You can see a middle tone. There's a very dark tone and a middle tone, and I'm going to run this middle tone all the way across. One other thing about painting in this fashion on a large canvas is that as you can see, I'm working my brush to the left and to the right horizontally. Now, that is not necessarily the way this is going to end up. What I am trying to create now is 3 different values of gray. Add more media, and here I'm using liquid, and more white, because I do want this bottom value to be white, to be not white, to be the lightest value, so that our aerial perspective will be created. Aerial perspective is very important, especially in a scape like this, especially in a large scape like this, because it creates distance. And creating distance in a painting is exactly what we're trying to do. Don't forget, what we're doing here is a bit of trompe l'oeil. We're trying to convince the viewer that our flat surface is not flat at all, that it goes deep in, as though you were standing on the shore here looking into it. What we don't want is a flat surface. Now that's for this realism presentation. There are presentations, there are working painting techniques where you do want the painting to look flat, but this is not it. What I'm going to do now is use the technique that Titian created, and that is using God's own tools. Use your fingers to make the blends. And so I'm going to do small circles here. Small circles, circles, circles. And I'm going to start to blend this. And you see how wonderful the blending happens with your fingers. It's a wonderful way to blend your canvas. Now, I'm not telling you to use your fingers to blend your canvas unless you have no allergies to oil paint. And of course, that would be linseed oil, saffron oil, depending on whose paint you buy. Here now, there's our darkest area blended. I'm going to work my way down into the second value. And I'm going to not have a line in there, of course. And again, you see my work, my fingers are working around and around, because the last thing I want is to have streaks like this. What I don't want is ribbons of paint in my composition. So I'm going, as you can see, even this little bit of work with my fingers starts to give the sky character. And of course, beauty and character is what we're looking for in our paintings. And now I'm going to work again. This is the middle tone, that's the lightest tone. I'm going to work the separation between the two. I want that to come down. So there really is no line between them. And again, I'm just working small circles and small circles in the whole composition of the sky. And again, this is a gray sky. And once it dries, I can add any color that I like to make it a morning sky, to make it a foreboding sky, as though a storm were coming, squall lines, so many things that I can do. But I don't care for skies that are monodirectional. I'd like to pull the sky, and I'll start from here, half, and I'm going to pull the sky. Now I'm just going over it very, very softly. With my brush, I pulled most of the paint out of it, and I'm going to pull this. I want a nice direction, as you see. All right. Okay. And I like this nice, long, sweeping sky, because over this, I can do anything. I could put cirrus clouds. I could put cumulonimbus clouds. I could put any combination of clouds over this motion. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom and continue. And there are some larger areas of black paint that I don't care for. And what I'm going to do with those is use my fingers again and just fumato, smoke. In Italian, fumato, smoke those edges. And so they still continue with the motion of the sky, but they are softly blended. And here along the islands, and the same in here. So on a nice even value all the way across my sky. And my sky for now is completed.